Hey, it's Spot. Back again to How Long with Spot and bringing back our guest Bobo, uh, Liar Tuck, for this day's episode. Um, and just a quick one. A thing about with busking buttons is that it has to be done like kind of when the sun shines. There's an interest in buttons that's heightened when they're sparkling in the light that you don't get when it's overcast. And of course, you don't want to do it in the rain because it's not really good for the buttons. Um, so we'll be doing, these kind of videos more often when we can't busk and just, being more productive then in terms of this and so forth. So we just want to do a short one because we put out some new items here that we want to show you. Um, One of the things, of course, we had the after Liar here decided to pick an intellectual debate with one of the world's most beloved sock puppets. We did a elmo ik bin antifa button because despite all antifa is not an organization. It means anti-fascist, right? We never were into that too much, using that term, because we use the term anti-fascist because the idea of making it, Americans have been anti-fascist for a long time. So it's, quite appropriate to say that. We came up with another Liar Tuck button here. There we go. But as soon as we started busking the Elmo Antifa buttons, about the second time actually, we have a 4-year-old running up to grab an Antifa. So we decided we needed to do a different one, and we have a Black Lives Matter Elmo button. Another thing we have, by the way, we also have some kind of romance-oriented buttons as well, but what we really want to show you is we did a project around the monopolies around lighters within markets, and because of that, we had purchased a bulk sale of lighters that we still have a fair number of, actually. And so we had started a while back making a simple thing of like just putting a message on the lighter and doing the same thing with that. And so we have this year hashtag Liar Tuck, Black Lives Matter, another hashtag Liar Tuck with the BLB, and the lettering on that came out a little bit too large. And we'll probably change it, and I think we have somewhere we have a Black Lives Matter with the, or maybe we don't, okay. But we will eventually have some combination of all three of those, and that tends to be good. And that's also why we sometimes do things like fridge magnets and pocket mirrors, because there's declensions. I mean, part of the role we have played within our lives has been pushing out the bubbles of what is possible, because by going beyond the pale, it makes it easier for people to make one more step. And the thing is sometimes, and there's been times where buttons have been very popular for people to look at our thing, but they wouldn't wear it, because they actually felt afraid. And that's interesting that, our society's come to a point where people will feel afraid about making a political statement that is so obvious. But then there's different things. Like, it's a little bit more intimate setting if it's on your fridge, and if you're smoking, all like that. And of course, there's a long history. Uh, back when I was involved in the Marxist-Leninist labor movement, it was like. I knew this one guy who carried like menthols and regular cigarettes because it was a place where people could talk in private within work sites, so it was a good organizing tool. And that's not to say you should smoke, but I'm just saying that culture was in there. I mean, the same thing with alcohol. If you read Caesar's commentaries on the Gallic War, there's huge sections about the importance of wine in winning that war, because they used it as a passive sort of biological warfare against the Gauls, because the Romans always mixed a little wine into the water, so it slowed down the contaminants that they weren't used to, and they built up resistance. Well, the Germans, they drank beer at night and water during the day, and so and legions are like tens of thousands of men, so it's a big community moving in, so they were catching each other's germs that each other wasn't necessarily familiar with, but the Romans had an edge on that. Another thing happening, Bob No Good, flip the fifth, and that's something that's just developed in Charlottesville. In Charlottesville, I remember there used to be a Republican turned independent Good, and he was in the downtown mall, and there was quite a bit of protest organized within his. Well, we did a weekly protest. Don't even remember what the issue was, but it must have been another very large one was the day of shock and awe, and all like that. But he's a Republican kind, and he eventually distanced from it, and then it got to this other guy, the asshole who was late in criticizing Trump for basically supporting the fascist. He like snuck inside and out of Charlottesville because he was afraid of his constituents addressing their concerns to him. He wanted to hide. And it's the same thing this guy we have now, Rinkelman. His office is out, on the edge of town where it would be very hard to get to on foot. Actually, I go there a lot. My dentist actually is in his office, but in the same building. But it's not the kind of place where it would be easy to petition your government, and that's part of what that thing is. This whole thing about protest. It's part of the right to petition your government, because petition means getting the message to them if they're ignoring it. I mean, you ever tried to contact these people from there? First off, they require, our pronoun is they, me's, and they want, is it Mr. or Mrs.? Is it Doctor or Reverend? Why? And it's required. Why the fuck is a pronoun required to contact your congressman or senator? And that's Democrat or Republican, And what issue is about, and they have a list of things, and they really don't have other options. And they want to fit your square peg into their round hole or whatever, So the idea that, and looting, when you talk about rebel, we used to talk about the difference between revolution, reaction, radicalism, reformism, and like that. Looting fits in what's called rebellion. In other words, the very last stage before you actually have real, directed, targeted violence, right? Instead of just like kicking up a fuss because you're angry, And this is the thing, you didn't listen, when they knelt when people took a knee and called them down, and now you're complaining about that. And you're saying, oh, well, they're getting their own businesses on. You want them to do organized violence? That's when you got war. So, we think this shit. Because, and that's a message about that. So anyway, we went into a tangent and a rant there. We apologize for that. And that was actually part of us was getting into Caliban's perspective. And he can go on like that. That's, another thing we want to point out. We don't really want to go into that today. Have a nice day. We're going to be busking soon, both in the morning and down by the corner, which is a part of Charlottesville that's kind of the business district near the university. There's a foolproof way of finding it. Any idiot can find it. Just rent a U-Haul truck, go straight down Main Street until it comes to West Main, starts becoming university. And when you reach a sudden abrupt halt at a deceptively low overpass, you're there. And then in the afternoon, doing some on the downtown mall. And hopefully, and the other thing is, we're actually going to be doing an upcoming thing soon, which is kind of special. It's a dueling apocalypse, which is looking at comparison of zombie versus corona apocalypses and comparison to response thinking. And have a nice day.